Hey there friends, and thanks for joining me again. And today I want to talk to you about choosing the right house. So you've saved your money, you've bought down your debts, you've improved your credit, you've shopped around for a mortgage, you've done all these things you need to do in order to buy a house. You're approved for your mortgage and you're like so excited because now it's time to actually go out house shopping, which is so exciting. I like shopping some, but definitely house shopping is the most exciting shopping there is. When you're ready to get started house shopping, there are some definite things that you want to consider because there are a lot of things that can come up that could potentially cause problems later on. And so hopefully I can help you avoid some of those problems. The first thing I think you should do is sit down and write a list of your goals. Your goals in why you want to buy a house, what you really want in your next house, even long-term goals. So is this a family house? Is it just a starter house? Just a little small house to get you started in the housing market, maybe build up some equity and move out? Is it a dream house? Is it an investment? Is it a retirement house? What is it that you're really hoping to get in your house? And this is also a good time to identify some of the problems that you may have with your current housing situation and what it is you really want to fix. For me, there was a long list of goals. We need to be out of the city. We need, we have a major storage problem with food especially. We have, a small amount of space for our children who are growing and lots of things. And so definitely make sure you write down a list of all of your goals. It doesn't have to be on pen and paper. You could even use your phone or whatever else. Just take note of it and write this down. It needs to be written down, not just some verbal thing. Write this down because this is something that we go back to over and over again, and I can honestly see how this is something that we could have made a mistake on when we were actually out house shopping. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then the second thing would be to identify our needs, the needs that we need in our next house. Where does the location need to be? We both work in the same city, so we don't want to buy in a city over here. We don't want a long commute. Those sorts of things. What sort of amenities do you need? How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms do you need? How many square feet does your family need? These sorts of things. Write down the needs first, or second, I should say, after the goals. But before you write down the next list, which is wants. There are a lot of things that we can want in a house, but they aren't necessarily a need. What type of layout do you prefer? Do you like a certain style of house? Do you like a ranch house? Do you like a bungalow? Do you like a split level, a tri-level? Do you want a Victorian? Whatever it is, what types of styles do you prefer? What would you like in your next house? Do you want a fireplace? Do you want a pool? Do you want AC? Do you want a view? What sort of lot size do you want? And some of these things can actually be needs. So if your goal is to get an off-grid house, well then, a wood stove or something like that would be a need for that. So these can vary from family to family for sure, but these three things, your goals, your wants, and your needs, are something that I believe need to get written down. Because we started by doing this, and then as we were looking through the houses, I could see that there were several times that we were getting distracted by different things that we didn't really need or have on our list. And it also helped us remember some of the things that we were really trying to fix. So we would go see a house and we'd be like, we really like this, but it's too far away. This really doesn't work for us with the commute. Or we would look at one and we'd be like, oh, this is a really nice house. It has a really big kitchen, but it would have no pantry at all. I'm like, well, but one of the main problems we have now is that we just don't have any storage room for food. So it didn't really help us to reach our goals. So, because house shopping can be really distracting, it's really easy to go into a house and see, beautiful granite countertops or a whole lot of square feet, and then lose sight of the fact that, those huge amount of square feet come at the, price tag of an hour of your day commuting back and forth. After commuting an hour to and an hour back every single day, those granite countertops aren't just going to wow you anymore. Or whatever. Or that giant house, you won't even get to enjoy it because you're going to be spending all your time commuting. Hopefully you understand what I mean. So by identifying our goals, our wants, and our needs, this definitely helps to achieve finding the right place for us without being distracted by some of the different features that different houses can have. There are also a lot of other things you want to consider when looking for a house that have made people have issues with their houses before. Schools are definitely one of them. I know of a couple who bought a house and really loved it, poured a bunch of money into it, and then when they had kids and they were ready to put their kids into school, or getting ready to, at least a year out or whatever it was, they found out that the school district that they were in was horrible. So they actually ended up selling that house and buying a new house just to get into the school district that they wanted. So you may want to consider the school district even if you don't have kids, because it affects the resale value of a house. So that's another thing you want to consider, the resale value, and whether or not houses like this hold their value in your area. What is it going to be as a long-term investment? Even if you don't plan to sell your house, if you're hoping to just move in and stay. I had, a coworker a while back who had bought a house and was like, well, this is the last house we're ever going to buy. I love it here. We're never going to move. 4 months later, he lost his job and ended up having to move to a whole nother state. So consider, what the house is going to be like, or, even if it isn't 4 months, what if, in 3 years, 6 years, 10 years from now, what kind of a long-term investment will this house be? Because buying real estate is an investment whether or not we intend to resell it to make money later on. The area, what is the area like? There are definitely pockets in every single city where there are better areas and there are less good areas. So you want to consider what that is like. A crime rate is definitely something to consider. You don't want to get yourself into a house that's in a neighborhood with a high crime rate. You might look at the house and be like, wow, this house is a really good deal. Look at all these square feet for this low price. That's because of the area it's in and because it has a high crime rate. So definitely want to consider that. You don't want to end up a victim of crimes or end up with your car being broken into because of where you've, bought your house. The appreciation rates. How well are the houses increasing in value? Because again, even in my own city, I know there are certain parts of the city where the houses are appreciating faster than others. And so if we could get a house in an area where the houses are appreciating more, it would be for a better investment in that regard. What kind of shopping is there close by? Nobody wants to be far away from a grocery store. Everybody likes to be near food, especially, but other times when you have other things you want to buy. It seems like there are definitely a preference for houses that are near shopping in general, and so that again will help affect its resale value. Whether or not it's on a busy street is definitely something to consider, because those can be harder to sell later on. Is it on a corner? Is it on a cul-de-sac? Corners tend to get more traffic because you get the traffic from both directions, whereas cul-de-sacs tend to have quieter traffic. And so, if you are concerned about traffic noise and you're trying to sleep, especially if you're doing a day sleep, if you have to work at night or something like that, that could definitely affect you. Or if you have children, of course, cul-de-sacs are a great choice for, families and things like that. Those are definitely things to consider. Whether or not they're near parks is something to consider, because a lot of times, there are children, or if you don't have children, again, the resale value can be affected by whether or not there are parks nearby. And that can just be a nice perk if you have children anyway. If you live near a park and they can just go walk down and play over there or whatever, it can just be a nice thing to have. So, yes, there are a lot of things to consider, a lot of things to write down, but once you start getting it narrowed down as far as what you want to get and where and all these different things, you'll want to tour a lot of houses. I think that this is important. We started looking at houses before we were really ready to buy. We were prepared to buy, but we looked at houses that we weren't even we already knew that we weren't really interested in them, because I wanted to get a feel for the quality of the houses. I wanted to get a feel for how, which ones sell faster, which ones are selling slower, which ones have features that other people are looking for. I felt like that made me better prepared to make a move on the one where we were like, no, this one is special. We want that one. Or, to better know that the house that we're looking for is in an area where it's going to move fast, so we don't really have the opportunity to, lollygag. That sort of thing. So touring lots of houses, I think, is important. And another good way to do that would just be going to open houses. Just go into the open houses, look at, the different types they have available, and, the different areas, the different neighborhoods. It can really help you get a good feel for your city and, the area where you're looking, and you can better know certain, roads that you would like to be on, roads that you wouldn't like to be on, and things like that. or even certain things you may not want to live next to. I don't want to live next to a cell tower. I believe that they put out a lot of, RF radiation, and I don't want to live right next to one. So when I was looking for houses, I was taking note of where all the cell towers were, and I was making sure to take note so that I'm like, oh, well, this house popped up on the market, but I already know there's a cell tower right there. We don't want to be that close to it. You get what I'm saying. So as long as you're like touring lots of houses and you're getting out and you're exploring the different neighborhoods, it's going to give you a better idea of where it is that you really want to be. And I do want you to consider also that there is no such thing as the perfect house. You can look at 10,000 of them, and there will always be something wrong with one of them. There will be some repair that it needs that you don't really want to do. It'll have, the sun that hits it just not in the right way, in the morning or whatever. There will always be something wrong with some of them. So do keep in mind that, perfect houses really only, exist in our minds. They don't really exist in the real world. So try and keep yourself open-minded in that regard. And also be open-minded to things that can be changed. Because when we put together our list of wants and needs, I put together a list of, this stuff we can change and this stuff we can't. So if we find a house that is in the right neighborhood, it's in the right location and all this, but it doesn't have something we want, like a fireplace, we can always add that, because I would rather buy a house that does not have one and it's in the right location than one that has a fireplace but isn't in the right location, because we can't fix that later. So that's something to, consider and keep in mind. And then if you are in a housing market that isn't moving too quickly, if you are in a housing market where stuff is really moving, like you have to make a move quickly if you see it, a hot market as they call it, you can't probably do some of these things. But if you have the ability to, I recommend seeing it twice, because it helps you, to understand, more about the house. You're going to see more things than you saw the first time. Maybe you go and look at it once and you're like, okay, well, this is a possibility. See it a second time. Bring a family member, bring a friend, bring someone that's, has construction, background or something like that. Someone, who would be helping you to fix the issues so that they can actually see what it would involve and give you an estimate on how much that sort of stuff would cost, and so you can better know what you're getting into. See it at different times of the day. What does it look like during rush hour? Because it may be very different than in the middle of the day or at night. There could be a horrible problem that you may not notice until it's nighttime. So those types of things, just seeing it, multiple times of the day or seeing it more than once can definitely help get a better feel for the house as a whole. And you can even talk to neighbors if you want. Ask them what the neighborhood is like. Ask them what the other, neighbors are like. And oftentimes they'll be, pretty upfront and honest with you. They can be like, the neighbor on their other side, they're having all kinds of problems with them. That's why they're moving. Maybe not. You never know. But talking to neighbors can definitely help get a better feel for what the neighborhood is like. And, people who are really happy with their neighborhood will probably be happy to open up and let you know about that. And if you have, an issue where you may want to talk to a neighbor too, we looked at a house that shared the same driveway. It was on the property that we would have bought. We didn't buy this property, but their driveway connected to it and went through what would have been our property. So that would have been an instance where I would have wanted to talk to those neighbors and ask, what they're like, see what, they had going on with that, if they help with snow removal or anything else, because that is a shared driveway, that sort of stuff. And I'm sure they're concerned too about who's going to be moving in, because their driveway connects to that property. So you can always talk to the neighbors as well. And of course, if you're the praying type, you can do that too. You're being led to the right thing instead of having to make the decision on your own. And if you're not, that's okay too. Just try and make the best decision that you can. And make sure that every time you look at a house and you start seriously considering it, that you go back to that list of goals. Does this house help us achieve our goals? How much of the things does it have that we really need? Does it not have anything that we really need? Does it have any of these items that you really want? That sort of thing. So you can constantly be checking each house you see with your list. That way you can get the right house without ending up with a house that you regret getting or ending up having to sell later on. So hopefully this video was helpful to you to help avoid some of the common problems that people have with buying, a house and then ending up, finding out things later on. So you can do some due diligence, as they call it, to really look into things before you make such a big decision, because buying a house is one of the biggest decisions that most people make in their lifetime. So thanks for watching. I'm Frugal Green Girl, and we'll see you next time.